Remedy Sessions Chapter 1 Starting Session. It was an exciting day for Sonic, and everyone else in the household would know it whether they liked it or not. The young hedgehog ran all through the house at top speed, with little care for what mess he left in his wake.
Sonic, relax.
Tom called out to him, trying to clean up the living room that was a travesty. Thanks to Sonic's excitement, the blue alien skidded to a stop in front of Tom, but his legs didn't stop moving.
I can't help it. I'm just so pumped.
I thought you really watched baseball games before you even told me you caused a parachute running around the local field.
Sonic quickly came to a stop, his face cringing at the memory of his outburst.
Well, yes, but this is different.
His feet started rapidly tapping as he rambled.
I don't have to hide this time. I'm gonna be part of the crowd, and it'll feel real. You know what I mean.
Tom didn't get it, but Sonic was a lonely kid growing up, so it was a big deal to him to feel included in these things, even if it was just to watch a game. Tom finally had a day off, and he and the boys were finally going to see the game today. Sonic was ready to go hours in advance. He simply couldn't wait. He was constantly bugging Tails and Tom to hurry up and would have done the same to Maddie and Knuckles if they were actually going. While Sonic was excitedly explaining baseball to an unfamiliar Tails as they climbed into the car, Tom began looking around the house for Maddie, wanting to say goodbye before leaving. He soon found her outside, yoga mat in her arms, and about to have a session. The perfect time now that the house would be quiet for a good couple of hours.
All right, getting out now. The boys are dressed up, so I don't have to worry.
He gave a smirk as he said that, as she had shared concern for the boys leaving the house, worried they were going to get them unwanted attention.
Call me if you need anything.
Maddie couldn't help but roll her eyes.
Yes! I know the deal by now. I'll be fine.
Tom let out a chuckle as he glanced around.
You see Knuckles today?
You know what he's like by now.
Maddie gave a bittersweet smile.
He likes his own space. I think he's still adjusting to everything.
Knuckles was having the most difficulty getting used to Earth out of the three boys. He did understand a lot of the typical customs of this planet. Everything left him either confused, frustrated, or uneasy, even if he wouldn't admit it. Not that they blamed him, of course. The sudden change must have put immense stress on him. It would explain a lot of his outbursts. Tom did try to ask the teenage Echidna if he wanted to come with them before, in an attempt to get to know him better and spend some time with him. He received a gruff no. That was the answer he expected, but it never hurt to ask since then. He hadn't seen him, however. That started to become a regular occurrence. Eventually, the three had left, and the house was calm. What better time to get some yoga done than now? Maddie took a deep breath of the fresh morning air as she put her hands together, getting herself into position. The ambience of nature continued to relax her as she stretched slowly and slowly moved into the warrior pose, hands coming together again as she raised her arms above her head. She continued to breathe calmly while she held the position. This was just the tranquility she needed.
What are you doing?
A familiar low voice suddenly asked. A frightened gasp came from Maddie as she stumbled out of her pose, quickly looking over in the direction of the voice as she clenched her chest tightly. It was Knuckles, standing a few feet away, cautiously, as he usually did. His violet-colored eyes were squinted warily, and his head slightly tilted as he stared at the human woman. Maddie breathed quickly for a moment, until finally letting out a sigh of relief.
Oh, it's only you. You scared me.
You women should work on your senses.
The Echidna responded somberly, his expression unchanging.
Maybe it has something to do with you being deathly quiet, and I didn't hear you coming over from wherever you just were.
She rose a brow, giving a light smirk.
And I was also in the middle of my session.
To repeat my lesson, what is it that you are doing?
She smiled as she replied.
Yoga.
Knuckles' face showed a twinge of confusion, raising a brow as he continued to stare at Maddie.
Yoga. What is this yoga? It's a fighting method.
Maddie fought hard to keep a giggle in, knowing whenever someone laughed at him, it quickly flew Knuckles into a rage, but the soft, sweet smile remained as she answered.
No, it's not quite for that. It's a type exercise. It's used to build strength, awareness, and harmony in both the mind and body.
At the explanation, a spark of curiosity was seen in the Echida's eyes as he inched closer, the tension in his body language unwinding.
Would you care to join me?
She offered, noticing his interest.
That is, if you want to, I mean.
It was Dwight for a few seconds, the young Echida staring at her before his eyes darted away. Knuckles then quickly turned away, abruptly walking into the house. As rude as it was, Maddie did not hold it against the teenager, considering his lonely childhood and isolating lifestyle. It wasn't at all surprising that his social skills were not his strong suit. Watching him vanish into the house, Maddie simply shrugged it off and returned to her yoga, not feeling any need to worry about supervising Knuckles. The worst that could happen is something making him lose his temper, but the thing that got him riled up the most was currently on his way to a baseball game. It quickly went back to being a quiet session of yoga for Maddie, finding her center once again as she settled into the tree pose. She stood firm as she raised her clasped hands above her head, taking a deep breath as she did so and slowly exhaling as she lowered her hands to chest level. Oddly enough, it didn't take long, perhaps roughly 10 minutes, before she had the strange feeling she had eyes on her. Could it be?
Back so soon, Knuckles?
She asked aloud, peeking an eye open and looking over in the same direction as before. There he was, stood there again, his face appearing stunned for a moment. Obviously being surprised, she sensed his presence. It quickly vanished as he reverted to his usual serious expression. He started to talk, his tone quiet and awkward.
I noticed no one else was present. Where are they?
They're not here. The boys went off to watch a baseball game, so it's just you and me for a couple of hours.
Maddie answered him, the soft, gentle smile unchanging.
My offer still stands, just so you know.
She watched the red Echida, whose usual strong and stern demeanor had shifted to an almost shy and hesitant one as he contemplated her offer. Knuckles took a few cautious steps toward her, occasionally stopping in his tracks, but eventually, he stood in front of her. Maddie's composure remained calm, but inwardly she was grinning ear to ear.
Is that a yes then?
She received a nod in response, his amethyst eyes darting away before looking back up at her again.
Let's begin then.
Maddie decided the best choice was some meditation poses to give a simple start. She took a seat on the yoga mat, and Knuckles copied her, explaining step by step how to position himself, but reassuring him that if it's uncomfortable for him not to push himself, she would peek an eye open every so often to watch Knuckles, wanting to make sure he was going along steadily. At first, it seemed Knuckles was struggling to relax. His face made it painfully obvious. His nose was becoming scrunched, and his eyes were clenched tightly shut. Perhaps something was on his mind, causing him some distress. In a calm voice, Maddie spoke again.
Try and focus on your breathing now. Deep breathe in, deep breathe out.
She continued to peek an eye open to watch Knuckles, being pleased to notice the breathing methods were helping him release his tension. Taking another deep breath and closing her eyes, Maddie lost herself to the natural ambience once again. The gentle breeze of the wind, the chirping of the birds in the distance. It was a beautiful moment of peace. Eventually, Maddie opened her eyes again, having lost track of time and sitting there for who knows how long. She glanced down at the Echida in front of her. A small smile was on his face as he sat there, breathing calmly and steadily. Seeing him genuinely smile was such a heartwarming sight for her. It gave a warm feeling in her chest, just to see Knuckles having a moment of relief from the stress of the changes he must have been dealing with. The Echida's eyes blinked open to find Maddie staring, smiling down at him. He quickly looked away, his intense expression returning once again as his cheeks went a color. Clearly embarrassed, he was seen smiling. It didn't stop Maddie from doing so.
You feel better?
Yes.
His eyes eventually found their way back up as he quietly responded.
Good?
The human woman stretched as she stood up, picking up her yoga mat and rolling it up.
I think that's enough for now, at least for me.
Knuckles stood up just as she did. Despite his serious expression, she could definitely notice his body language was less tense. For the moment, he really did feel more relaxed.
You hungry? I'm gonna go have some lunch. I can make you something if you'd like.
Maddie was wholeheartedly expecting him to decline the offer or simply run off without an answer. She understood he needed his own time, and this had the longest he had interacted with her thus far.
Okay.
He responded so quietly, she almost didn't hear it. It took every fiber of her being to not start brimming with joy. She didn't expect that answer at all, but the fact she got it meant one thing for sure. Knuckles was beginning to feel more comfortable around her, even if it was just a little. She began to walk towards the house, hearing Knuckles' footsteps following her slowly. She stopped, hearing him attempt to speak up again.
Could we perhaps do this again sometime?
Maddie's smile widened.
Of course, Knuckles.
Before going into the house, she could ever so slightly see that smile return to his face again, lasting a bit longer this